This is a complete audiobook reading of Bhagavad Gita, a new translation, written by Stephen Mitchell in 2000. Chapter 1: Arjuna's Despair. Arjuna was about to participate in a great war. Standing before him, he sees fathers, grandfathers, teachers, uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, fathers-in-law, and friends, kinsmen on both sides, each side arrayed against the other. In despair, overwhelmed with pity, he said, "As I see my own kinsmen gathered here, eager to fight, my legs weaken, my mouth dries, my body trembles, my hair stands on end. My skin burns, the bow Gandiva drops from my hand, I am beside myself, my mind reels. I see evil omens, Krishna, no good can come from killing my own kinsmen in battle. I have no desire for victory or for the pleasures of kingship. What good is kingship, or happiness, or life itself, when those for whose sake we desire them, teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other kinsmen stand here in battle ranks ready to give up their fortunes and their lives? Though they want to kill me, I have no desire to kill them, not even for the kingship of the three worlds, let alone for that of the earth. What joy would we have in killing Dhritarashtra's men? Evil will cling to us if we kill them, even though they are the aggressors, and it would be unworthy of us to kill our own kinsmen. How could we be happy if we did? Because their minds are overpowered by greed, they see no harm in destroying the family, no crime in treachery to friends. But we should know better, Krishna, clearly seeing the harm caused by the destruction of the family. We should turn back from this evil. When the family is destroyed, the ancient laws of family duty cease. When law ceases, lawlessness overwhelms the family. When lawlessness overwhelms the women of the family, they become corrupted. When women are corrupted, the intermixture of castes is the inevitable result. Intermixture of caste drags down to hell both those who destroy the family and the family itself. The spirits of the ancestors fall, deprived of their offerings of rice and water. Such are the evils caused by those who destroy the family. Because of the intermixture of castes, caste duties are obliterated, and the permanent duties of the family as well. We have often heard, Krishna, that men whose family duties have been obliterated must live in hell forever. Alas, we are about to commit a great evil by killing our own kinsmen, because of our greed for the pleasures of kingship. It would be better if Dhritarashtra's men killed me in battle, unarmed and unresisting." Having spoken these words, Arjuna sank down into the chariot and dropped his arrows and bow, his mind heavy with grief. Chapter 2: The Practice of Yoga. As Arjuna sat there, overwhelmed with pity, desperate, tears streaming from his eyes, Krishna spoke these words to him. "Why this timidity, Arjuna, at a time of crisis? It is unworthy of a noble mind, it is shameful, and does not lead to heaven. This cowardice is beneath you, Arjuna, do not give in to it. Shake off your weakness. Stand up now like a man." Arjuna said, "When the battle begins, how can I shoot arrows through Bhishma and Drona, who deserve my reverence? It would be better to spend the rest of my life as a pauper, begging for food, than to kill these honored teachers. If I killed them, all my earthly pleasures would be smeared with blood, and we do not know which is worse, winning this battle or losing it, since if we kill Dhritarashtra's men, we will not wish to remain alive. I am weighed down by pity, Krishna, my mind is utterly confused. Tell me where my duty lies, which path I should take. I am your pupil. I beg you for your instruction, for I cannot imagine how any victory, even if I were to gain the kingship of the whole earth or of all the gods in heaven, could drive away this grief that is withering my senses." Having spoken thus to Krishna, Arjuna said, "I will not fight," and fell silent. As Arjuna sat there downcast between the two armies, Krishna smiled at him, then spoke these words. The blessed Lord said, "Although you mean well, Arjuna, your sorrow is sheer delusion. Wise men do not grieve for the dead or for the living. Never was there a time when I did not exist, or you or these kings, nor will there come a time when we cease to be. Just as in this body the self passes through childhood, youth, and old age, so after death it passes to another body. Physical sensations, cold and heat, pleasure and pain, are transient, they come and go, so bear them patiently, Arjuna. Only the man who is unmoved by any sensations, the wise man indifferent to pleasure, to pain, is fit for becoming deathless. Non-being can never be, being can never not be. Both these statements are obvious to those who have seen the truth. The presence that pervades the universe is imperishable, unchanging, beyond both is and is not. How could it ever vanish? These bodies come to an end, but that vast embodied self is ageless, fathomless, eternal. Therefore you must fight, Arjuna. If you think that this self can kill, or think that it can be killed, you do not well understand reality's subtle ways. It never was born, coming to be, it will never not be. Birthless, primordial, it does not die when the body dies. Knowing that it is eternal, unborn, beyond destruction, how could you ever kill? And whom could you kill, Arjuna? Just as you throw out used clothes and put on other clothes, new ones, the self discards its used bodies and puts on others that are new. The sharpest sword will not pierce it, the hottest flame will not singe it, Water will not make it moist, wind will not cause it to wither. It cannot be pierced or singed, moistened or withered. It is vast, perfect and all-pervading, calm, immovable, timeless. It is called the inconceivable, the unmanifest, the unchanging. If you understand it in this way, you have no reason for your sorrow. Even if you think that the self is perpetually born and perpetually dies, even then, Arjuna, you have no reason for your sorrow. Death is certain for the born, for the dead, rebirth is certain. Since both cannot be avoided, you have no reason for your sorrow. Before birth, beings are unmanifest. Between birth and death, manifest. At death, unmanifest again. What cause for grief in all this? Some perceive it directly in all its awesomeness. Others speak of it with wonder. Others hear of it and never know it. This self who dwells in the body is inviolable forever. Therefore, you have no cause to grieve for any being, Arjuna. Know what your duty is and do it without hesitation. For a warrior, there is nothing better than a battle that duty enjoins. Blessed are warriors who are given the chance of a battle like this, which calls them to do what is right and opens the gates of heaven. But if you refuse the call to a righteous war and shrink from what duty and honor dictate, you will bring down ruin on your head. Decent men, for all time, will talk about your disgrace, and disgrace for a man of honor is a fate far worse than death. These great heroes will think that fear has driven you from battle. All those who once esteemed you will think of you with contempt. And your enemies will sneer and mock you. The mighty Arjuna, that brave man, he slunk from the field like a dog. What deeper shame could there be? If you are killed, you gain heaven, triumph, and you gain the earth. Therefore stand up, Arjuna, steady your mind to fight. Indifferent to gain or loss, to victory or defeat, prepare yourself for the battle and do not succumb to sin. This is philosophy's wisdom. Now hear the wisdom of yoga. Armed with this understanding, you will shatter your karmic bonds. On this path, no effort is wasted, no gain is ever reversed. Even a little of this practice will shelter you from great sorrow. Resolute understanding is single-pointed, Arjuna, but the thoughts of the irresolute are many-branched and endless. Foolish men talk of religion in cheap, sentimental words, leaning on the scriptures. God speaks here, and speaks here alone. Driven by desire for pleasure and power, caught up in ritual, they strive to gain heaven, but rebirth is the only result of their striving. They are lured by their own desires, besotted by the scriptures' words. Their minds have not been made clear by the practice of meditation. The scriptures dwell in duality. Be beyond all opposites, Arjuna, anchored in the real and free from all thoughts of wealth and comfort. As unnecessary as a well is to a village on the banks of a river, so unnecessary are all scriptures to someone who has seen the truth. You have a right to your actions, but never to your actions' fruits. Act for the action's sake. And do not be attached to inaction. Self-possessed, resolute, act without any thought of results, open to success or failure. This equanimity is yoga. Action is far inferior to the yoga of insight, Arjuna. Pitiful are those who, acting, are attached to their actions' fruits. The wise man lets go of all results, whether good or bad, and is focused on the action alone. Yoga is skill in actions. The wise man whose insight is firm, relinquishing the fruits of action, is freed from the bondage of rebirth and attains the place beyond sorrow. When your understanding has passed beyond the thicket of delusions, there is nothing you need to learn from even the most sacred scripture. Indifferent to scriptures, your mind stands by itself, unmoving, absorbed in deep meditation. This is the essence of yoga. Arjuna said, How would you describe the man whose wisdom is steadfast, Krishna? How does the wise man speak? How does he sit, stand, walk? The blessed Lord said, When a man gives up all desires that emerge from the mind and rests contented in the self by the self, he is called a man of firm wisdom. He whose mind is untroubled by any misfortune, whose craving for pleasures has disappeared, who is free from greed, fear, anger, who is unattached to all things, who neither grieves nor rejoices if good or if bad things happen, that man is a man of firm wisdom. Having drawn back all his senses from the objects of sense, as a tortoise draws back into its shell, that man is a man of firm wisdom. Sense objects fade for the abstinent, yet the craving for them continues, but even the craving vanishes for someone who has seen the truth. At first, although he continually tries to subdue them, the turbulent senses tear at his mind and violently carry it away. Restraining the senses, disciplined, he should focus his whole mind on me. When the senses are in his control, that man is a man of firm wisdom. If a man keeps dwelling on sense objects, attachment to them arises. From attachment, desire flares up. From desire, anger is born. From anger, confusion follows. From confusion, weakness of memory, weak understanding, ruin. But the man who is self-controlled, who meets the objects of the senses with neither craving nor aversion, will attain serenity at last. In serenity, all his sorrows disappear at once, forever. When his heart has become serene, his understanding is steadfast. The undisciplined have no wisdom, no one-pointed concentration. With no concentration, no peace. With no peace, where can joy be? When the mind constantly runs after the wandering senses, it drives away wisdom, like the wind blowing a ship off course. And so, Arjuna, when someone is able to withdraw his senses from every object of sensation, that man is a man of firm wisdom. In the night of all beings, the wise man sees only the radiance of the self, but the sense world where all beings wake, for him is as dark as night. The man whom desires enter as rivers flow into the sea, filled yet always unmoving, that man finds perfect peace. Abandoning all desires, acting without craving, free from all thoughts of I and mind, that man finds utter peace. This is the divine state, Arjuna. Absorbed in it, everywhere, always, even at the moment of death, he vanishes into God's bliss. Chapter 3. The Yoga of Action. Arjuna said, "And if you think that understanding is superior to action, Krishna, why do you keep on urging me to engage in this savage act? With words that seem inconsistent, your teaching has bewildered my mind. Tell me, what must I do to arrive at the highest good?" The blessed Lord said, "In this world there are two main paths, the yoga of understanding for contemplative men, and for men who are active, the yoga of action. Not by avoiding actions does a man gain freedom from action, and not by renunciation alone can he reach the goal. No one, not even for an instant, can exist without acting. All beings are compelled, however unwilling, by the three strands of nature called gunas. He who controls his actions but lets his mind dwell on sense objects is deluding himself and spoiling his search for the deepest truth. The superior man is he whose mind can control his senses with no attachment to results. He engages in the yoga of action. Do any actions you must do, since action is better than inaction. Even the existence of your body depends on necessary actions. The whole world becomes a slave to its own activity. Arjuna, if you want to be truly free, perform all actions as worship. The Lord of creatures formed worship together with mankind and said, by worship you will always be fruitful and your wishes will be fulfilled. By worship you will nourish the gods and the gods will nourish you in turn. By nourishing one another you assure the well-being of all. Nourished by your worship, the gods will grant whatever you desire, but he who accepts their gifts and gives nothing back is a thief. Good men are released from their sins when they eat food offered in worship, but the wicked devour their own evil when they cook for themselves alone. Beings arise from food, food arises from rain, rain arises from worship, worship from ritual action. Ritual action from God, God from the deathless self. Thus the all-present God requires the worship of men. He who fails to keep turning the wheel thus set in motion has damaged the working of the world and has wasted his life, Arjuna. But the man who delights in the self, who feels pure contentment and finds perfect peace in the self, for him there is no need to act. He has nothing to achieve by action, nothing to gain by inaction, nor does he depend on any person outside himself. Without concern for results, perform the necessary action, surrendering all attachments, accomplish life's highest good. Only by selfless action did Janaka and otherwise kings govern, and thus assure the well-being of the whole world. Whatever a great man does, ordinary people will do. Whatever standard he sets, everyone else will follow. In all the three worlds, Arjuna, there is nothing I need to do, nothing I must attain, and yet I engage in action. For if I were to refrain from my tireless, continual action, mankind would follow my example and would also not act, Arjuna. If I stopped acting, these worlds would plunge into ruin, chaos would overpower all beings, mankind would be destroyed. Though the unwise cling to their actions, watching for results, the wise are free of attachments and act for the well-being of the whole world. The wise man does not unsettle the minds of the ignorant, quietly acting in the spirit of yoga. He inspires them to do the same. Actions are really performed by the working of the three gunas, but a man deluded by the eye sense imagines I am the doer. The wise man knows that when objects act on the senses, it is merely the gunas acting on the gunas, thus he is unattached. Deluded by the gunas, men grow attached to the gunas' actions. The insightful should not disturb the minds of these foolish men. Performing all actions for my sake, desireless, absorbed in the self, indifferent to I and mine, let go of your grief and fight. Men who constantly practice this teaching of mine, Arjuna, who trust it with all their heart, are freed from the bondage of actions. But those who, mistrustful, half-hearted, fail to practice my teaching wander in the darkness, lost, stupefied by delusion. Even the wise man acts in accordance with his inner nature. All beings follow their nature. What good can repression do? Craving and aversion arise when the senses encounter sense objects. Do not fall prey to these two brigands blocking your path. It is better to do your own duty badly than to perfectly do another's. You are safe from harm when you do what you should be doing. Arjuna said, What is it that drives a man to an evil action, Krishna, even against his will, as if some force made him do it? The blessed Lord said, That force is desire, it is anger, arising from the guna called rajas, deadly and all-devouring. That is the enemy here. As a fire is obscured by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, as a fetus is wrapped in its membrane, so wisdom is obscured by desire. Wisdom is destroyed, Arjuna, by the constant enemy of the wise, which flaring up as desire blazes with insatiable flames. Desire dwells in the senses, the mind, and the understanding. In all these it obscures wisdom and perplexes the embodied self. Therefore you must first control your senses, Arjuna, then destroy this evil that prevents you from ever knowing the truth. Men say that the senses are strong, but the mind is stronger than the senses, the understanding is stronger than the mind, and strongest is the self. Knowing the self, sustaining the self by the self, Arjuna, kill the difficult-to-conquer enemy called desire. Chapter 4. The Yoga of Wisdom. The blessed Lord said, I taught this imperishable doctrine to Vivasvat, god of the sun, more than 100 billion years ago. Vivasvat told it to Manu, father of humans, Manu to King Ikshvaku, transmitted from one generation to the next. It was known for eons. To all the primeval wise men, the seers and philosopher kings, but over the dwindling ages the doctrine has been lost, Arjuna. This is the ancient doctrine that I have taught you today, since you are my devotee and friend. This is the innermost doctrine. Arjuna said, But you were born countless eons later than the god of the sun. How then is it possible that you taught this doctrine to him? The blessed Lord said, Many times I have been born, and many times you have also. All these lives I remember, you recall only this one, although I am unborn, deathless, the infinite Lord of all beings. Through my own wondrous power I come into finite form. Whenever righteousness falters and chaos threatens to prevail, I take on a human body and manifest myself on earth. In order to protect the good, to destroy the doers of evil, to ensure the triumph of righteousness, in every age I am born. Whoever knows profoundly, my divine presence on earth is not reborn when he leaves the body, but comes to me. Released from greed, fear, anger, absorbed in me and made pure by the practice of wisdom, many have attained my own state of being. However men try to reach me, I return their love with my love. Whatever path they may travel, it leads to me in the end. Wishing success in their actions, men sacrifice to the gods, for ritual can bring success quickly in the world of men. I founded the 4-caste system with the gunas appropriate to each. Although I did this, know that I am the eternal non-doer. Actions cannot defile me. Since I am indifferent to results, all those who understand this will not be bound by their actions. This is how actions were done by the ancient seekers of freedom. Follow their example, act, surrendering the fruits of action. What are action and inaction? This matter confuses even wise men, so I will teach you and free you from any harm. You must realize what action is, what wrong action and inaction are as well. The true nature of action is profound and difficult to fathom. He who can see inaction in the midst of action and action in the midst of inaction is wise and can act in the spirit of yoga. With no desire for success, no anxiety about failure, indifferent to results, he burns up his actions in the fire of wisdom. Surrendering all thoughts of outcome, unperturbed, self-reliant, he does nothing at all, even when fully engaged in actions. There is nothing that he expects, nothing that he fears. Serene, free from possessions, untainted, acting with the body alone. Content with whatever happens, unattached to pleasure or pain, success or failure, he acts and is never bound by his action. When a man has let go of attachments, when his mind is rooted in wisdom, everything he does is worship and his actions all melt away. God is the offering, God is the offered, poured out by God. God is attained by all those who see God in every action. Some men of yoga pray to the gods and make this their worship. Some offer worship by worship itself, in the fire of God. Others offer their senses in the fire of self-abnegation. Others offer the senses objects in the fire of the senses. Others offer all actions of the senses and of the breath in the fire kindled by wisdom of the yoga of self-restraint. Some offer wealth, austerities, their practice of yoga. Others, ascetics, offer their studies of the scriptures and wisdom itself. Others, intent on control of their vital forces, offer their in-breath into their out-breath, or their out-breath into their in-breath. Others, while fasting, offer their in-breath into their in-breath. All these understand worship. By worship they are cleansed of sin. Partaking of the essence of worship, forever they are freed of themselves, but non-worshippers cannot be happy in this world or any other. Thus, many forms of worship may lead to freedom, Arjuna. All these are born of action. When you know this, you will be free. Better than any ritual is the worship achieved through wisdom. Wisdom is the final goal of every action, Arjuna. Find a wise teacher, honor him, ask him your questions, serve him. Someone who has seen the truth will guide you on the path to wisdom. When you realize that you will never fall back into delusion, knowing it, you see all beings in yourself and yourself in me. Even if you were the most evil of evildoers, Arjuna, wisdom is the boat that would carry you across the sea of all sin. Just as firewood is turned to ashes in the flames of a fire, all actions are turned to ashes in wisdom's refining flames. Nothing in the world can purify as powerfully as wisdom. Practiced in yoga, you will find this wisdom within yourself. Resolute, restraining his senses, the man of faith becomes wise. Once he attains true wisdom, he soon attains perfect peace. Ignorant men without faith are easily mired in doubt. They can never be truly happy in this world or the world beyond. A man is not bound by action who renounces action through yoga, who concentrates on the self, and whose doubt is cut off by wisdom. Therefore, with the sword of wisdom, cut off this doubt in your heart. Follow the path of selfless action. Stand up, Arjuna. Chapter 5. The Yoga of Renunciation. Arjuna said, "You have praised both renunciation and the yoga of action, Krishna. Tell me now, of these two, which is the better path?" The blessed Lord said, "Renunciation and yoga both lead to the ultimate good, but of the two paths, Arjuna, yoga is the more direct. The true renunciate neither desires things nor avoids them. Indifferent to pleasure and pain, he is easily freed from all bondage. Fools say that knowledge and yoga are separate, but the wise do not. When you practice one of them deeply, you gain the rewards of both. The state reached by true knowledge is reached by yoga as well. Both paths lead to the self, both lead to selfless action. It is hard to renounce all action without engaging in action. The sage, wholehearted in the yoga of action, soon attains freedom. Wholehearted, purified, mastering body and mind, his self becomes the self of all beings. He is unstained by anything he does. The man who has seen the truth thinks, I am not the doer. At all times, when he sees, hears, touches, when he smells, eats, walks, sleeps, breathes, when he defecates, talks, or takes hold, when he opens his eyes or shuts them, at all times he thinks, this is merely sense objects acting on the senses. Offering his actions to God, he is free of all action. Sin rolls off him as drops of water roll off a lotus leaf. Surrendering attachment, the sage performs all actions with his body, his mind, and his understanding only to make himself pure. The resolute in yoga surrender results and gain perfect peace. The irresolute, attached to results, are bound by everything they do. Calmly renouncing all actions, the embodied self dwells at ease as lord of the nine-gated city, not acting, not causing action. It does not create the means of action, or the action itself, or the union of result and action. All these arise from nature. Nor does it partake of anyone's virtuous or evil actions. When knowledge of the self is obscured by ignorance, men act badly. But when ignorance is completely destroyed, then the light of wisdom shines like the midday sun and illumines what is supreme. Contemplating that, inspired and rooted and absorbed in that, men reach the state of true freedom from which there is no rebirth. Wise men regard all beings as equal, a learned priest, a cow, an elephant, a rat, or a filthy rat-eating outcast. Freed from the endless cycle of birth and death, they can act impartially toward all beings, since to them all beings are the same. They do not rejoice in good fortune, they do not lament at bad fortune. Lucid, with minds unshaken, they remain within what is real. A man unattached to sensations, who finds fulfillment in the self, whose mind has become pure freedom, attains an imperishable joy. Pleasures from external objects are wounds of suffering, Arjuna. They have their beginnings and their ends. No wise man seeks joy among them. The man of yoga who is able to overcome, here on earth, the turmoil of desire and anger, that man is truly happy. He who finds peace and joy and radiance within himself, that man becomes one with God and vanishes into God's bliss. The wise man, cleansed of his sins, who has cut off all separation, who delights in the welfare of all beings, vanishes into God's bliss. He who controls his mind and has cut off desire and anger realizes the self. He knows that God's bliss is nearer than near. Closing his eyes, his vision focused between the eyebrows, making the in-breath and the out-breath equal as they pass through his nostrils. He controls his senses and his mind, intent upon liberation. When desire, fear, and anger have left him, that man is forever free. Knowing me as the enjoyer of all worship, the Lord of all worlds, the dearest friend of all beings, that man gains perfect peace. Chapter 6: The Yoga of Meditation. The Blessed Lord said, "He who performs his duty with no concern for results is the true man of yoga, not he who refrains from action." You know that right action itself is renunciation, Arjuna. In the yoga action, you first renounce your own selfish will. For the man who wishes to mature, the yoga of action is the path. For the man already mature, serenity is the path. When a man has become unattached to sense objects or to actions, renouncing his own selfish will, then he is mature in yoga. He should lift up the self by the self and not sink into the selfish. For the self is the only friend of the self, and its only foe. The self is a friend for him who masters himself by the self, but for him who is not self-mastered, the self is the cruelest foe. When a man has mastered himself, he is perfectly at ease in cold, in heat, in pleasure or pain, in honor or in disgrace. The mature man, fulfilled in wisdom, resolute, looks with equal detachment at a lump of dirt, a rock, or a piece of pure gold. He looks impartially on all, those who love him or hate him, his kinsmen, his enemies, his friends, the good, and also the wicked. The man of yoga should practice concentration alone, mastering mind and body, free of possessions and desires. Sitting down, having chosen a spot that is neither too high nor too low, that is clean and covered with a grass mat, a deerskin and a cloth, he should concentrate, with his whole mind, on a single object. If he practices in this way, his mind will soon become pure. With torso and head held straight, with posture steady and unmoving, gazing at the tip of his nose, not letting his eyes look elsewhere. He should sit there calm, fearless, firm in his vow to be chaste, his whole mind controlled, directed, focused, absorbed in me. Constantly mastering his mind, the man of yoga grows peaceful, attains supreme liberation, and vanishes into my bliss. He who eats too much food or too little, who is always drowsy or restless, will never succeed in the yoga of meditation. For the man who is moderate in food and pleasure, moderate in action, moderate in sleep and waking, yoga destroys all sorrow. With a mind grown clear and peaceful, freed from selfish desires, absorbed in the self alone, he is called a true man of yoga. A lamp sheltered from the wind which does not flicker to this is compared the true man of yoga, whose mind has vanished in the self. When his mind has become serene by the practice of meditation, he sees the self through the self and rests in the self, rejoicing. He knows the infinite joy that is reached by the understanding beyond the senses. Steadfast, he does not fall back from the truth. Attaining this state, he knows that there is no higher attainment. He is rooted there, unshaken even by the deepest sorrow. This is true yoga, the unbinding of the bonds of sorrow. Practice this yoga with determination and with a courageous heart. Abandoning all desires born of his own selfish will, a man should learn to restrain his unruly senses with his mind. Gradually he becomes calm and controls his understanding. Focusing on the self, he should think of nothing at all. However often the restless mind may break loose and wander, he should rein it in and constantly bring it back to the self. When his mind becomes clear and peaceful, he enters absolute joy. His passions are calmed forever. He is utterly absorbed in God. Mastering mind and body, purified from all sin, he easily gains true freedom and finds an infinite joy. Mature in yoga, impartial everywhere that he looks, he sees himself in all beings and all beings in himself. The man who sees me in everything and everything within me will not be lost to me, nor will I ever be lost to him. He who is rooted in oneness realizes that I am in every being. Wherever he goes, he remains in me. When he sees all beings as equal in suffering or in joy because they are like himself, that man has grown perfect in yoga. Arjuna said, "You have taught that the essence of yoga is equanimity, Krishna. But since the mind is so restless, how can that be achieved?" The mind is restless, unsteady, turbulent, wild, stubborn. Truly, it seems to me as hard to master as the wind. The Blessed Lord said, "You are right, Arjuna, the mind is restless and hard to master, but by constant practice and detachment it can be mastered in the end. Yoga is indeed hard for those who lack self-restraint, but if you keep striving earnestly, in the right way, you can reach it." 6.37-40 Arjuna said, "Krishna, what happens to the man who, with faith but no self-control, wanders from the path of yoga before he becomes mature? Hasn't he lost both the here and the hereafter? Doesn't he, rootless and insubstantial, fade like a cloud in the sky? This is the doubt that troubles me, Krishna. I beg you please help me, for only you can remove this doubt from my mind." The blessed Lord said, "Neither here nor hereafter, Arjuna, is that man lost. No one who does good work will come to an evil end. Reaching the heaven of the righteous, after uncountable years that man will be born again to parents who are upright and wealthy. He may even be born to parents who have practiced yoga and are wise, though a birth as fortunate as this is more difficult to obtain. There he regains the knowledge acquired in his former life, and from that point on, Arjuna, he strives toward the ultimate goal. Unconsciously he returns to his former practice. Even a man who asks about yoga goes beyond formal religion. Striving with constant effort, cleansing himself of all sin through many lifetimes, at last he attains the ultimate goal. The man of yoga is greater than ascetics, or the learned, or those who perform the rituals. Therefore be a man of yoga, my son. Practice yoga sincerely with single-minded devotion. Love me with perfect faith. Bring your whole self to me." Chapter 7. Wisdom and Realization. The blessed Lord said, "Listen, Arjuna, I will tell you how you can know me beyond doubt by practicing non-attachment and surrendering yourself to me. I will teach you the essence of this wisdom and its realization. When you come to master this, there is nothing further that needs to be known. Of 10,000 men, perhaps one man strives for perfection. Of 10,000 who strive, perhaps one man knows me in truth. Earth, fire, water and wind, air, mind and understanding, and the eye sense. These are the 8 aspects of my physical nature. This is my lower nature, but beyond this I have another higher nature, the life that sustains all beings in the world. You know that it is the womb from which all beings arise. The universe is born within me, and within me will be destroyed. There is nothing more fundamental than I, Arjuna. All worlds, all beings are strung upon me like pearls on a single thread. I am the taste in water, the light in the moon and sun, the sacred syllable Om in the Vedas, the sound in air. I am the fragrance in the earth, the manliness in men, the brilliance in fire, the life in the living, and the abstinence in ascetics. I am the primal seed within all beings, Arjuna, the wisdom of those who know, the splendor of the high and mighty. I am the strength of the strong man who is free of desire and attachment. I am desire itself when desire is consistent with duty. All states of being, whether marked by sattva or rajas or tamas, proceed from me. They are in me, not I in them. Because most men are deluded by the states of being, they cannot recognize me, who am above these, supreme, eternal. But those men who turn to me can penetrate beyond this wondrous power of mine, this magic created by the 3 gunas. Others are deluded by my power. They do not attempt to find me, and in their ignorance sink into demonic evil. There are 4 kinds of virtuous men who worship me, Arjuna: the man in distress, the man who seeks power, the man who seeks wisdom, and the sage. Of these 4, the sage is the most praiseworthy, unattached, steadfast. That man is supremely beloved by me, as I am by him. All these are noble-minded. But the sage is my very self, calm, untroubled. He dwells in the ultimate goal in me. At the end of his many lives, the sage unites with me, thinking, Krishna is all that is. Great souls like this are rare. Men whose wisdom is darkened by desires, men who are hemmed in by the limits of their own natures, take refuge in other gods. But whatever the form of reverence, whatever God a sincere devotee chooses to worship, I grant him an unswerving faith. Empowered by his faith, that man earnestly seeks the God's favor and obtains the things he desires, because I myself have ordained it. But fleeting is the reward that men of small minds are given. They will go to the gods they worship, but my worshippers come to me. Though I am unmanifest, fools think that I have a form, unaware of my higher existence, which is permanent and supreme. Veiled in my mystery and power, I am not perceived by most men. Their deluded minds cannot see me, the unborn, the changeless, the undying. I know all beings who have passed, and all who live now, Arjuna, and all who are yet to be, but I am beyond all knowing. All beings are born to ignorance, ruled by aversion and craving. This, Arjuna, is the primal duality that keeps them bound. But when a man is released from dualities, he can act purely without attachment and can serve me with all his heart. Those who take refuge in me, striving for release from old age and death, know absolute freedom and the self and the nature of action. Those who know me and the nature of beings, of gods, and of worship are always with me in spirit, even at the hour of their death. Chapter 8. Absolute Freedom. Arjuna said, What is this absolute freedom, Krita? What is the self? What is the true nature of action, the nature of beings and of gods? Teach me the way of worship, what it is here in the body, and how at the hour of death can a man be with you in spirit? The blessed Lord said, Freedom is union with the deathless. The self is the essence of all things. Its creative power, called action, causes the whole world to be. About beings, know that they die. About gods, know the Supreme Person, and know that true worship is I myself, here in this body. Whoever in his final moments thinks of me only is sure to enter my state of being once his body is dead. Whatever the state of being that a man may focus upon at the end, when he leaves his body, to that state of being he will go. Therefore, Arjuna, meditate on me at all times and fight. With your whole mind intent on me, you will come to me, never doubt it. Strong in the practice of yoga, with a mind that is rooted in me and in nothing else, you will reach the Supreme Person that I am. Meditate on the guide, the giver of all, the primordial poet, smaller than an atom, unthinkable, brilliant as the sun. If you do this at the hour of your death, with an unmoving mind, drawing your breath up between your eyebrows, you will reach the person that I am. I will teach you about the state called the eternal, the absolute, which those who strive toward me enter desireless, freed from attachments. Closing the 9 gates of the body, keeping the attention in the heart, drawing the breath to the forehead, with the mind absorbed, one-pointed. Uttering the sacred Om, which itself is freedom, focused on me as you leave the body, you attain the ultimate goal. For men whose minds are forever focused on me, whose love has grown deep through meditation, I am easy to reach, Arjuna. Reaching me, these great souls attain the supreme perfection, and no longer are reborn in this fleeting world of sorrow and pain. All realms, up to the realm of Brahma, are subject to rebirth, but those who attain me, Arjuna, will never be reborn again. If you know that one single day or one single night of Brahma lasts more than 4 billion years, you understand day and night. When day comes, all things emerge from the depths of unmanifest nature. When night comes, all things dissolve into the unmanifest again. These multitudes of beings in an endless, beginningless cycle helplessly dissolve when Brahma's night comes and emerge once more at his dawn. But beyond this unmanifest nature is another unmanifest state, a primal existence that is not destroyed when all things dissolve. This is the eternal unmanifest and is called the ultimate goal. Men who reach this, my supreme dwelling, are never reborn. This Supreme Person, Arjuna, who contains all beings and extends to the limits of all that is, can be reached by wholehearted devotion. Now, Arjuna, I will tell you the times at which men of yoga die and must be reborn or die never to return. Fire, light, day, the moon's brightness, the 6 months of the north turning sun, dying then, men who are free. Go to absolute freedom. Smoke, gloom, night, the moon's darkness, the 6 months of the south turning sun. Dying then, men of yoga reach the moon's light and return. These paths of light and of darkness have always existed. By one, a man will escape from rebirth. By the other, he is born again. Knowing these 2 paths, Arjuna, the man of yoga, at all times resolute in his non-attachment, goes far beyond the merit gained from the study of the scriptures, from acts of worship or control or charity. Dying, he reaches the supreme, primordial place. Chapter 9. The Secret of Life. The Blessed Lord said, "Because you trust me, Arjuna, I will tell you what wisdom is, the secret of life. Know it and be free of suffering forever. This is the supreme wisdom, the knowing beyond all knowing, experienced directly, in a flash, eternal, and a joy to practice. Those who are without faith in my teaching cannot attain me. They endlessly return to this world, shuttling from death to death. I permeate all the universe in my unmanifest form. All beings exist within me, yet I am so inconceivably vast, so beyond existence, that though they are brought forth and sustained by my limitless power, I am not confined within them. Just as the all-moving wind, wherever it goes, always remains in the vastness of space, all beings remain within me. They are gathered back into my womb at the end of the cosmic cycle, 150,000 billion of your earthly years. And as a new cycle begins, I send them forth once again, pouring from my abundance the myriad forms of life. These actions do not bind me, Arjuna. I stand apart from them all, indifferent to their outcome, unattached, serene. Under my guidance, nature brings forth all beings, all things animate or inanimate, and sets the whole universe in motion. Foolish people despise me in the human form that I take, blind to my true nature as the Lord of all life and death. Their hopes and actions are vain. Their knowledge is sheer delusion. Turning from the light, they fall into cruelty, selfishness, greed. But the truly wise, Arjuna, who dive deep into themselves, fearless, one-pointed, know me as the inexhaustible source. Always chanting my praise, steadfast in their devotion, they make their lives an unending hymn to my endless love. Others, on the path of knowledge, know me as the many, the one. Behind the faces of 1,000,000 gods, they can see my face. I am the ritual and the worship, the medicine and the mantra, the butter burnt in the fire, and I am the flames that consume it. I am the father of the universe and its mother, essence and goal of all knowledge, the refiner, the sacred Om, and the threefold Vedas. I am the beginning and the end, origin and dissolution, refuge, home, true lover, womb and imperishable seed. I am the heat of the sun. I hold back the rain and release it. I am death and the deathless, and all that is or is not. The righteous who follow the scriptures strictly, who drink the soma and are purified of their sins, who pray to be taken to heaven. They reach the world of the gods and enjoy an indescribable bliss, although after eons of those vast and glorious pleasures, when their merit is spent, they fall back into the mortal world. Impelled by desire, they achieve only what will pass away. But to those who meditate on me undistracted and worship me everywhere, always, I will bring a reward that never can be lost. Arjuna, all those who worship other gods with deep faith are really worshiping me, even if they don't know it. For I am the only object and the only enjoyer of worship, and they fall back because they cannot know me as I truly am. Worshipping the gods, men go to the gods, worshipping spirits to the spirits, worshipping me, they come to me in the end. Any offering, a leaf, a flower or fruit, a cup of water, I will accept it if given with a loving heart. Whatever you do, Arjuna, do it as an offering to me, whatever you say or eat or pray or enjoy or suffer. In this way you will be freed from all the results of your actions, good or harmful, unfettered, untroubled, you will come to me. I am the same to all beings. I favor none and reject none, but those who worship me live within me, and I live in them. Even the heartless criminal, if he loves me with all his heart, will certainly grow into sainthood as he moves toward me on this path. Quickly that man becomes pure, his heart finds eternal peace. Arjuna, no one who truly loves me will ever be lost. All those who love and trust me, even the lowest of the low prostitutes, beggars, slaves will attain the ultimate goal. How much easier then for ordinary people or for those with pure hearts. In this sad, vanishing world, turn to me and find freedom. Concentrate your mind on me, fill your heart with my presence, love me, serve me, worship me, and you will attain me at last. Chapter 10. Divine Manifestations. The Blessed Lord said, Listen further, Arjuna, to these words that delight your heart. This is my utmost teaching, which I tell you for your greatest good. Neither the myriad gods nor any of the sages know my origin. I am the source from which gods and sages emerge. Whoever knows me as the unborn, the beginningless, the great Lord of all worlds, he alone sees truly and is freed from all harm. Understanding and wisdom, patience, truth, peace of mind, pleasure and pain, being and non-being, fear and courage, non-violence, equanimity, control, benevolence, fame, dishonor, all these conditions come forth from me alone. The 7 primeval sages, the 4 progenitors from whom all human beings descend, arose from my own depths, mind-born. He who can understand the glory of my manifestations is forever united with me by his unwavering love. I am the source of all things, and all things emerge from me. Knowing this, wise men worship by entering my state of being. Thinking and speaking of me, enlightening one another, their lives surrendered to my care, they are always serene and joyous. To those who are steadfast, who love me, with true devotion, I give the yoga of understanding, which will bring them to where I am. Acting with deep compassion from within my own being, I dispel all ignorance-born darkness with wisdom's resplendent light. Arjuna said, You, Lord, are the supreme freedom, the supreme abode, the eternal person, the primordial God, all-pervading, birthless. This is how the great sages describe you, the divine Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa, and now you yourself confirm it. Everything you have told me, Krishna, I believe is true. Neither the gods nor the demons can grasp your infinite forms. You alone know yourself through yourself, Lord of all beings, cause and origin, master of the universe, God of gods. Tell me now, in detail, the divine self-manifestations by which you pervade these worlds and grace them with so much splendor. How can I know you, Krishna? Which of your many forms should I visualize, Lord of Yoga, as I focus my thoughts on you? You give me some further examples of your glorious manifestations, for I never can tire of hearing your life-giving, honey-sweet words. The Blessed Lord said, All right, Arjuna, I will tell you a few of my manifestations, the most glorious ones, for infinite are the forms in which I appear. I am the Self, Arjuna, seated in the heart of all beings. I am the beginning and the lifespan of beings, and their end as well. Of the sky gods I am Vishnu, of the heavenly lights the sun Marichi, chief of the wind gods, among stars I am the moon. Of the Vedas I am the hymns, Indra among the gods, the mind among the 6 senses, the consciousness of all beings. Of the storm gods I am Shiva, of the demigods Kubera, Agni among the bright gods, and Miru, highest of mountains. Know, Arjuna, that among priests I am Brihaspati of generals, the war god Skanda, of waters I am the ocean. Of the great seers I am Bhrigu, of words the syllable Om, of worship I am the mantra, of mountain chains Himalaya. Of trees the sacred fig tree, of divine sages Narada, of the high celestial musicians Chitraratha, of saints. The wise Kapila of horses, Yuksheshravas, Indra's favorite, born of the sea foam, of elephants Indra's winged, Airavata, of men. I am the king of weapons, Indra's thunderbolt, of cows, Kamaduk, the wish granter, Kandarpa, the god of love, the king of reptiles, Vasuki, of divine snakes. I am Ananta, the cosmic serpent, Varuna. Among the gods of the ocean, of the blessed forefathers, I am Aryaman, of the controllers Yama, the god of death. Of demons, the devout Prahlada, of things that compel, I am Time, the king of animals, the lion, Garuda among the birds. Of purifiers, the wind, of warriors, I am Rama, of sea monsters, Makara, of rivers, the holy Ganges. Of creations, the beginning and end and the middle as well, Arjuna, of knowledge, knowledge of the self. Of orators, I am the speech. Of letters, the first one, I am imperishable time, the creator whose face is everywhere, death that devours all things. The source of all things to come, of feminine powers, I am fame, wealth, speech and memory, intelligence, loyalty, forgiveness. Of chants, I am the great Brihat, of poetic meters, the Gayatri, of months, Margashirsha, the first month, of seasons, flower lush spring. Of swindles, I am the dice game, the splendor of the high and mighty, determination and victory, the courage of all brave men. Of the Vrishi clan, I am Krishna, of Pandavas, I am Arjuna, of the sages, I am Vyasa, of poets, the sublime Ushanas. Of punishers, I am the scepter, the astuteness of the great leaders, the silence of secret things, and I am the wisdom of the wise. I am the divine seed within all beings, Arjuna. Nothing, inanimate or animate, could exist for a moment without me. These are just a small number of my infinite manifestations. Were I to tell you more, there would be no end to the telling. Whatever in this world is excellent and glows with intelligence or beauty, be sure that it has its source in a fragment of my divine splendor. But what need is there for all these details? Just know that I am, and that I support the whole universe with a single fragment of myself. Chapter 11. The Cosmic Vision. Arjuna said, Graciously, Lord, you have spoken about the ultimate secret revealed when one knows the self, and your words have cleared up my confusion. You have told me in detail the origin and dissolution of all things, and have described your own vast, imperishable being. I do not doubt that you are what you say you are, Lord, and yet I want to see for myself the splendor of your ultimate form. If you think I am strong enough, worthy enough to endure it, grant me now, Lord, a vision of your vast, imperishable self. The blessed Lord said, Look, Arjuna, thousands, millions of my divine forms, beings of all kinds and sizes, of every color and shape. Look, the sun gods, the gods of fire, dawn, sky, wind, storm, wonders that no mortal has ever beheld. Look, look, Arjuna. The whole universe, all things animate or inanimate, are gathered here, look, enfolded inside my infinite body. But since you are not able to see me with mortal eyes, I will grant you divine sight. Look, look, the depths of my power. After he had spoken these words, Krishna, the great Lord of Yoga, revealed to Arjuna his majestic, transcendent, limitless form. With innumerable mouths and eyes, faces too marvelous to stare at, dazzling ornaments, innumerable weapons uplifted flaming. Crowned with fire, wrapped in pure light, with celestial fragrance, he stood forth as the infinite God, composed of all wonders. If 1,000 suns were to rise and stand in the noon sky, blazing, such brilliance would be like the fierce brilliance of that mighty self. Arjuna saw the whole universe enfolded, with its countless billions of life forms, gathered together in the body of the God of gods. Trembling with awe, his blood chilled, the hair standing up on his flesh, he bowed and, joining his palms, spoke these words to the Lord. Arjuna said, I see all gods in your body and multitudes of beings, Lord, and Brahma on his lotus throne, and the seers, and the shining angels. I see you everywhere, with billions of arms, eyes, bellies, faces without end, middle, or beginning, your body the whole universe, Lord. Crowned, bearing mace and discuss, you dazzle my vision, blazing in the measureless, massive, sun-flame splendor of your radiant form. You are the deathless, the utmost goal of all knowledge, the world's base, the guardian of the eternal law, the primordial person. I see you beginningless, endless, infinite in power, with 1 billion arms, the sun and moon your eyeballs, the flames of your mouth. lighting the whole universe with splendor. You alone fill all space, and the three worlds shudder when they see your astounding, terrifying form. Multitudes of gods approach you, palms joined in dread and wonder. Multitudes of sages chant to you hymns of deep adoration. The storm gods, the gods of light, of sky, dawn and wind, the angels, the saints, the demigods and demons, all gaze at you in amazement. Your stupendous form, your billions of eyes, limbs, bellies, mouths, dreadful fangs, seeing them the worlds tremble, and so do I. As you touch the sky, many-hued, gape-mouthed, your huge eyes blazing, my innards tremble, my breath stops, my bones turn to jelly. Seeing your billion-fanged mouths blaze like the fires of doomsday, I faint, I stagger, I despair. Have mercy on me, Lord Vishnu. All Dhritarashtra's men, and all these multitudes of kings Bhishma, Drona, Karna, with all our warriors behind them, are rushing headlong into your hideous, gaping, knife-fanged jaws. I see them with skulls crushed, their raw flesh stuck to your teeth. As the rivers in many torrents rush toward the ocean, all these warriors are pouring down into your blazing mouths. As moths rush into a flame and are burned in an instant, all beings plunge down your gullet and instantly are consumed. You gulp down all worlds, everywhere swallowing them in your flames. And your rays, Lord Vishnu, fill all the universe with dreadful brilliance. Who are you, in this terrifying form? Have mercy, Lord, grant me even a glimmer of understanding to prop up my staggering mind. The blessed Lord said, I am death, shatterer of worlds, annihilating all things. With or without you, these warriors and their facing armies will die. Therefore stand up, win glory, conquer the enemy rule. Already I have struck them down, you are just my instrument, Arjuna. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great heroes have already been killed by me. Fight, without hesitation, kill them. Having heard Krishna's speech, Arjuna, his palms joined, shivering with terror, bowed to the Lord deeply, and stammered these words. Arjuna said, Now I know why the universe delights and rejoices in you. Terrified, the demons scatter before you, and the sages bow. Why should they not bow, eternal Creator, infinite Lord? You are both being and non-being, and what is beyond them both? The primal God, the primordial person, the ultimate place of the universe, the knower and the known, the presence that fills all things. You are wind, death, fire, the moon, the Lord of life, the great ancestor of all things. 1,000 times I bow in front of you, Lord. Again and again I bow to you from all sides in every direction. Majesty infinite in power, you pervade, know you are all things. If, thinking you a human, I ever touched you or patted your back or called you dear fellow or friend through negligence or affection, or greeted you with disrespect, thoughtlessly, when we were playing or resting, alone or in public, I beg you to forgive me, immeasurable. God, great Father of the world, teacher, sustainer, goal of all reverence, unique and peerless Lord of unthinkable splendor. Therefore, most sincerely, I beg your pardon, as a father forgives his son, a friend his dear friend, a lover his beloved, forgive me. Having seen what no mortal has seen, I am joyful, yet I quiver with dread. Show me your other form, please, the one that I know, have mercy. Let me see you as you were before, crowned, bearing mace and discuss, with only 4 arms, O billion-armed Lord of infinite forms. The blessed Lord said, Graciously for your sake, Arjuna, I showed you my highest form, dazzling, infinite, primal, which no one has seen but you. Not by worship or study or alms or ascetic practice can I be seen in this form by anyone but you, Arjuna. Do not be frightened or confused at seeing my horrific form. Free of fear, light-hearted, see me as I was before. Having spoken thus to Arjuna, the Lord stood before him again in the mild and pleasant form of Krishna, the kind, the beautiful. Arjuna said, Seeing your human form, Krishna, I feel at ease. Once more I am myself, and my mind has regained its composure. The blessed Lord said, The vision that you have been granted is difficult to attain. Even the gods are always longing to behold me like this. Not by study or rites or alms or ascetic practice can I be seen in this cosmic form, as you have just seen me. Only by single-minded devotion can I be known as I truly am. Arjuna, can I be seen and entered. He who acts for my sake, loving me, free of attachment, with benevolence toward all beings, will come to me in the end. Chapter 12, the Yoga of Devotion. Arjuna said, One man loves you with pure devotion. Another man loves the unmanifest. Which of these two understands yoga more deeply? The blessed Lord said, Those who love and revere me with unwavering faith, always centering their minds on me, they are the most perfect in yoga. But those who revere the imperishable, the unsayable, the unmanifest, the all-present, the inconceivable, the exalted, the unchanging, the eternal, mastering their senses, acting at all times with equanimity, rejoicing in the welfare of all beings, they too will reach me at last. But their path is much more arduous because for embodied beings the unmanifest is obscure and difficult to attain. Those who love and revere me, who surrender all actions to me, who meditate upon me with undistracted attention, whose minds have entered my being, I come to them all, Arjuna, and quickly rescue them all from the ocean of death and birth. Concentrate every thought on me alone with a mind fully absorbed, one-pointed, you will live within me forever. If you find that you are unable to center your thoughts on me, strengthen your mind by the steady practice of concentration. If this is beyond your powers, dedicate yourself to me, performing all actions for my sake. You will surely achieve success. If even this is beyond you, rely on my basic teaching. Act always without attachment, surrendering your actions' fruits. Knowledge is better than practice, meditation is better than knowledge, and best of all is surrender, which soon brings peace. He who has let go of hatred, who treats all beings with kindness and compassion, who is always serene, unmoved by pain or pleasure, free of the I and mine, self-controlled, firm and patient, his whole mind focused on me, that man is the one I love best. He who neither disturbs the world nor is disturbed by it, who is free of all joy, fear, envy, that man is the one I love best. He who is pure, impartial, skilled, unworried, calm, selfless in all undertakings, that man is the one I love best. He who, devoted to me, is beyond joy and hatred, grief and desire, good and bad fortune, that man is the one I love best. The same to both friend and foe. The same in disgrace or honor, suffering or joy, untroubled, indifferent to praise and blame. Quiet, filled with devotion, content with whatever happens, at home wherever he is, that man is the one I love best. Those who realize the essence of duty, who trust me completely and surrender their lives to me, I love them with very great love. Chapter 13. The Field and Its Knower. Arjuna said, what are nature and self? What are the field and its knower, knowledge and the object of knowledge? Teach me about them, Krishna. The blessed Lord said, this body is called the field. Arjuna, the one who watches whatever happens within it, wise men call him the knower. I am the knower of the field in every body. Arjuna, genuine knowledge means knowing both the field and its knower. Listen, and I will explain the nature of the field, what changes take place in it, who is the knower, and what his great powers are. The sages have sung of these truths in the sacred hymns and in many powerful and well-argued reasonings about God. The 5 elements, the eye sense, the understanding, the 10 senses, the mind, the unmanifest, and the 5 domains of the senses. Desire and aversion, pleasure and pain, consciousness, will all these components make up the field, with its various changes. Humility, patience, sincerity, nonviolence, uprightness, purity, devotion to one's spiritual teacher, constancy, self-control. Dispassion toward objects of the senses, freedom from the eye sense, insight into the evils of birth, sickness, old age, and death. Detachment, absence of clinging to son, wife, family, and home, an unshakable equanimity in good fortune or in bad. An unwavering devotion to me above all things, an intense love of solitude, distaste for involvement in worldly affairs. Persistence in knowing the self and awareness of the goal of knowing all this is called true knowledge. What differs from it is called ignorance. I will teach you what should be known. Knowing it, you are immortal. It is the supreme reality, which transcends both being and non-being. Its hands and its feet are everywhere, everywhere its eyes, heads, mouths, everywhere its ears. It dwells in all worlds, containing all things. Though lacking senses itself, it shines through the working of the senses, unattached, all-sustaining, experiencing the gunas yet above them. Outside yet within all beings, motionless, always moving, subtle beyond comprehension, far yet nearer than near. Indivisible, though it seems divided in separate bodies, it is what sustains all things, what devours them, what creates them. It is the light of lights. Beyond all darkness, it is knowledge, the object and goal of all knowledge. It is seated in the hearts of all beings. This, in brief, is the field. Knowledge, and the object of knowledge. A devotee who understands this is ready for my state of being. Know that both nature and self are equally without beginning, and know that nature gives rise to changes in the field and to gunas. Nature is the cause of any activity in the body. The self is the cause of any feelings of pleasure or pain. The self, abiding in nature, experiences the gunas. Its attachment to the gunas causes its birth in good wombs or evil wombs. It is called the witness, the consenter, the sustainer, the enjoyer, the great Lord, and also the highest self, the supreme person in this body, he who thus knows the self as separate from nature and the gunas will never be born again, whatever path he may follow. By meditation, some men can see the self in the self, others by the yoga of knowledge, others by selfless action. Still others, not seeing, only hear about it and worship, they too cross beyond death, trusting in what they have heard. Whatever exists, Arjuna, animate or inanimate, has come into existence from the union of field and knower. He who sees that the great Lord is equally in all beings, deathless when every being dies, that man sees truly. Seeing the great Lord everywhere, he knows beyond doubt that he cannot harm the self by the self, and he reaches the highest goal. He who sees that all actions are performed by nature alone, and thus that the self is not the doer, that man sees truly. When he sees that the myriad beings emanate from the One and have their source in the One, that man gains absolute freedom. This supreme self is beginningless, deathless, and unconfined. Although it inhabits bodies, it neither acts nor is tainted. Just as all present space is too rarefied to be tainted, so the self is untainted by dwelling within a body. Just as the sun by itself illumines the entire world, so the field owner illumines everything in the field. He whose inner eye sees how the knower is distinct from the field, and how men are set free from nature, arrives at the highest state. Chapter 14. The Three Gunas. The Blessed Lord said, I will teach you further about true knowledge, ultimate knowledge, which all the sages have mastered and gone to supreme perfection. Relying on this, and attaining a state like mine, they neither are reborn when the world is created nor grieve when it is dissolved. Nature for me is a womb. In nature I plant my seed, and from this seed of mine bursts forth the origin of all beings. Whatever life forms Arjuna develop in any womb, nature is their primal womb, and I am their seed-giving father. The three gunas, born of nature's sattva, rajas, and tamas, bind to the mortal body, the deathless embodied self. Of these three, sattva, untainted, luminous, free from sorrow, binds by means of attachment to knowledge and joy, Arjuna. Rajas is marked by passion born of craving and attachment. It binds the embodied self to never-ending activity. Tamas, ignorance born, deludes all embodied beings. It binds them, Arjuna, by means of dullness, indolence, and sleep. Sattva causes attachment to joy, rajas to action, and tamas, obscuring knowledge, attaches beings to dullness. Sattva prevails when it masters rajas and tamas both. Rajas or tamas prevails when it masters the other two. When the light of knowledge shines forth through all the gates of the body, then it is apparent that sattva is the ruling trait. Greed and constant activity, excessive projects, cravings, restlessness, these arise when rajas is the ruling trait. Darkness, dullness, stagnation, indolence, confusion, torpor, inertia, these appear when tamas is the ruling trait. If a being dies in a state where the quality of sattva prevails, he goes to the stainless heavens of those who have seen the truth. If he dies when rajas prevails, he is born among those attached to action. If tamas prevails, he is born among the deluded. The fruit of action well done is sattvic and without a stain, but the fruit of rajas is suffering, and ignorance the fruit of tamas. From sattva, knowledge is born. From rajas, restlessness and greed, dullness and confusion arise. From tamas, and ignorance also. Men of sattva go upward, men of rajas remain in between, men of tamas, lowest of all, sink downward. When a man sees clearly that there is no doer besides the gunas and knows what exists beyond them, he can enter my state of being. Going beyond the three gunas that arise from the body, freed from the sorrows of birth, old age, and death, he attains the immortal. Arjuna said, And how can I recognize the man who has gone beyond the three gunas? What has he done to go beyond them? How does he act? The Blessed Lord said, Whatever quality arises, light, activity, delusion, he neither dislikes its presence nor desires it when it is not there. He who is unattached, who is not disturbed by the gunas, who is firmly rooted, and knows that only the gunas are acting, who is equally self-contained. In pain or pleasure, in happiness or sorrow, who is content with whatever happens, who sees dirt, rocks, and gold as equal, who is unperturbed amid praise or blame of himself, indifferent to honor and to disgrace, serene in success and failure, impartial to friend and foe, unattached to action, that man has gone beyond the three gunas. He who faithfully serves me with the yoga of devotion, going beyond the three gunas, is ready to attain the ultimate freedom. For I am the foundation of that birthless, imperishable freedom, the basis of eternal duty and of limitless, perfect joy. Chapter 15. The Ultimate Person. The Blessed Lord said, This realm of sorrow is the world tree that the sages describe, its roots above, its branches below, Its green leaves the sacred hymns. Its branches, spreading below and above, are fed by the gunas and bud into objects of the senses, its roots causing action stretch down into the world of men. Men here on earth cannot see how vast and extensive its form is or where it begins and ends. Cut down this deep-rooted tree with the sharp-edged axe of detachment, then search for that primal person from whom the whole universe flows. Find him in the place that one enters and does not return from without arrogance or delusion, intent on the self alone. Serene, with desires extinguished, released from pleasure and pain, from joy and suffering, the wise attain that eternal state. The sun does not give it light, nor the moon, nor does any fire. Those who reach it, my highest dwelling, are never reborn. One fragment of me, becoming an eternal soul in the world, draws to itself the mind and the other 5 nature-born senses. When the Lord takes on a body or leaves it, he carries these senses just as the wind carries fragrances from the places where it has been. Presiding over the senses of hearing and sight, of touch, taste, smell, and also of mind, he savors the senses' objects. Whether he leaves or remains enjoying his contact with the gunas, the deluded see nothing, but wise men see him with their inner eye. True men of yoga, striving, see him within themselves, but men without self-control, however they strive, do not see him. The brilliance of the moon, of fire, the brilliance that flames from the sun to illumine the entire world, this brilliance and truth is mine. Entering the earth, I support all beings by my life-giving power. Becoming the nectar-filled moonlight, I cause plants and herbs to thrive. I am the vital fire. In the bellies of all men, joined with the breath as it flows, I digest the various kinds of food. I dwell deep in the hearts of all beings. I am the source of memory and knowledge, the author of all scriptures, their wisdom, their goal. In this world there are 2 persons, the transient and the eternal. All beings are transient as bodies, but eternal within the self. Yet beyond these 2 is the ultimate person, the highest self, the immutable Lord who, entering the universe, brings it to life. I am beyond the transient and am higher than the eternal, therefore scriptures and world call me the ultimate person. Whoever, clear-minded, knows me as the ultimate person, knows all that is truly worth knowing, and he loves me with all his heart. Thus, Arjuna, I have taught you this most secret doctrine. Whoever learns it is wise and has done all that there is to do. Chapter 16. Divine Traits and Demonic Traits. The Blessed Lord said, fearlessness, purity of heart, persistence in the yoga of knowledge, generosity, self-control, non-violence, gentleness, candor, integrity, disengagement, joy in the study of the scriptures, compassion for all beings, modesty, patience, a tranquil mind, dignity, kindness, courage, a benevolent, loving heart. These are the qualities of men born with divine traits, Arjuna. Hypocrisy, insolence, anger, cruelty, ignorance, conceit, these, Arjuna, are the qualities of men with demonic traits. The divine traits lead to freedom, the demonic to suffering and bondage. But do not be concerned, Arjuna, the traits you have are divine. The demonic and the divine are the 2 kinds of men in this world. The divine I have told you about, now learn about the demonic. Demonic men do not realize what should and what should not be done. There is no purity of heart, no virtue, no truth inside them. They say that life is an accident caused by sexual desire, that the universe has no moral order, no truth, no God. Clinging to this stupid belief, drawn into cruelty and malice, they become lost souls and at last enemies of the whole world. Driven by insatiable lusts, drunk on the arrogance of power, hypocritical, deluded, their actions foul with self-seeking, tormented by a vast anxiety that continues until their death, convinced that the gratification of desire is life's sole aim, bound by 100 shackles of hope, enslaved by their greed, they squander their time dishonestly piling up mountains of wealth. Today I got this desire, and tomorrow I will get that one. All these riches are mine, and soon I will have even more. Already I have killed these enemies, and soon I will kill the rest. I am the Lord, the enjoyer, successful, happy, and strong, noble and rich and famous. Who on earth is my equal? I will worship, give alms, and rejoice. Thus think these ignorant fools. Bewildered by endless thinking, entangled in the net of delusion, addicted to desire, they plunge into the foulest of hells. Self-centered, stubborn, filled with all the insolence of wealth, they go through the outward forms of worship, but their hearts are elsewhere. Clinging to the eye sense, to power, to arrogance, lust, and rage, they hate me, denying my presence in their own and in others' bodies. Through all the cycles of birth and death, I hurl these depraved, cruel, and hate-filled men into demonic wombs. Trapped in demonic wombs, deluded in birth after birth, they never reach me, Arjuna, but sink to the lowest state. This is the soul-destroying threefold entrance to hell: desire, anger, and greed. Every man should avoid them. The man who refuses to enter these three gates into darkness does what is best for himself and attains the ultimate goal. But the man who rejects the scriptures, chasing his own desires, cannot attain the goal of true joy or true success. Therefore, guided by the scriptures, know what to do and not do. First understand their injunctions, then act uprightly in the world. Chapter 17. 3 kinds of faith. Arjuna said, Ed, there are men who worship with faith, and yet who reject the scriptures. What guna prevails in them, Lord? Sattva, Rajas, or Tamas? The blessed Lord said, There are 3 kinds of faith in men, each kind ruled by the guna inherent in the nature of the man. Listen as I explain this. Every man's faith conforms with his inborn nature, Arjuna. Faith is a person's core. Whatever his faith is, he is. Sattvic men worship the gods, Rajasic demigods and demons, Tamasic the hordes of dark spirits and the ghosts of the dead, men who mortify their flesh in ways not sanctioned by the scriptures, who are trapped in their sense of I and driven by warped desires, in their folly torturing the parts that compose the body, and thus torturing me in the body. Know that their aim is demonic. There are 3 kinds of food as well, and worship, control, and charity also divide into 3 kinds. Here are the distinctions among them. Foods that the sattvic are drawn to promote vitality, health, pleasure, strength, and long life, and are fresh, firm, succulent, and tasty. Foods that please the rajasic, bitter or salty or sour, hot or harsh or pungent, cause pain, disease, and discomfort. The preferred foods of the tamasic are stale, overcooked, tasteless, contaminated, impure, filthy, putrid, and rotten. Worship that is offered according to scripture, for the sake of the worship, without any thought of reward. This kind of worship is sattvic. Rajasic worship, Arjuna, is offered out of desire, for the good that it will result in or in order to gain respect. Worship is tamasic when it is faithless, contrary to scripture, with no food offered, no text recited, no payment to the priest. Honoring the gods, the priests, the teachers and sages, purity, nonviolence, chastity, uprightness, all this is control of the body. Speaking the truth with kindness, honesty that causes no pain, and the recitation of scripture, this is control of speech. Serenity, gentleness, silence, benevolence, self-restraint, purity of being, compassion, this is control of the mind. When these 3 levels of control are practiced with faith and diligence, and with no desire for results, such control is called sattvic. Rajasic control, by its nature wavering and unstable, is performed out of pride or to gain respect, admiration, and honor. Control is called tamasic when used by deluded men to mortify their flesh or to gain the power to cause harm to others. Charity given to the worthy, without any expectations, for the sake of the act itself, this kind of charity is sattvic. Rajasic charity is given half-heartedly, with the thought of securing some favor in return or to gain some spiritual merit. Charity is called tamasic when given to the undeserving, at the wrong time and wrong place, grudgingly, without respect. Tat Sat. These words stand for the liberated mind by which priests, scriptures, and rituals were appointed in ancient times. Therefore, the word is always chanted by those who expound the scriptures to begin an act of worship, control, or charity. Tat, which means that the absolute, is chanted by seekers of freedom whenever they perform right actions with no concern for results. The third word, Sat, has the sense of reality, goodness. Thus, Sat is used to denote any praiseworthy action. Maturity of worship or control or charity is also called Sat, as is all unselfish action that leads to any of the 3. But worship, control, or charity offered without faith, Arjuna, is called asat, unreal, and is worthless, in this world or the next. Chapter 18. Freedom through renunciation. Arjuna said, Teach me this lesson, Krishna, what it means to renounce, what it means to relinquish, and the difference between the 2. The blessed Lord said, To give up desire-bound actions is what is meant by renouncing. To give up the results of all actions is what the wise call to relinquish. Some sages say that all action is tainted and should be relinquished. Others permit only acts of worship, control, and charity. Here is the truth. These acts of worship, control, and charity purify the heart and therefore should not be relinquished but performed. But even the most praiseworthy acts should be done with complete non-attachment and with no concern for results. This is my final judgment. Relinquishment is of 3 kinds. When any obligatory action is relinquished because of delusive thinking, that is tamasic. When a man relinquishes action because it is hard or painful, that relinquishment is rajasic and cannot guide him toward freedom. But when, out of duty, a man performs an obligatory action, relinquishing all results, that relinquishment is called sattvic. The man who is able to relinquish beyond doubt does not avoid unpleasant actions, nor is he attached to actions that are pleasant. An embodied being can never relinquish actions completely. To relinquish the results of actions is all that can be required. For those who cling to it, action has three results when they die: desired, undesired, and mixed. But for those who renounce, it has none. Now I will teach you the 5 elements that must be present for an action to be accomplished, as philosophers have declared. The physical body, the agent, the various organs of sense, the various kinds of behavior, and divine providence is 5th. In whatever action a man takes with his body, his speech, or his mind, whether it is right or wrong, these 5 things must be present. Since this is so, when a man of limited understanding sees himself as sole agent, he is not seeing the truth. A man who is free from the eye sense and is pure, even if he kills these warriors, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Knowledge, the known, and the knower are the 3 things that motivate action. Instrument, action, and agent are the 3 components of action. Knowledge, action, and agent are of 3 kinds, according to the guna that prevails in each one. Listen, and I will explain these distinctions. Knowledge that sees in all things a single, imperishable being, undivided among the divided. This kind of knowledge is sattvic. Rajasic knowledge perceives a multiplicity of beings, each one existing by itself, separate from all the others. Knowledge is called tamasic when it clings to one thing as if it were the whole, and has no concern for the true cause and essence of things. Obligatory action performed without any craving or aversion by a man unattached to results. This kind of action is sattvic. Rajasic action is performed with a wish to satisfy desires, with the thought I am doing this, and with an excessive effort. Action is tamasic when it begins in delusion, with no concern that it may cause harm to oneself or others. An agent who is free from attachment and the eye sense, courageous, steadfast, unmoved by success or failure. This kind of agent is sattvic. A rajasic agent is impulsive, seeks to obtain results, is greedy, violent, impure, and buffeted by joy and sorrow. An agent is called tamasic when he is undisciplined, stupid, stubborn, mean, deceitful, lazy, and easily depressed. Listen as I describe the 3 kinds of understanding and the 3 kinds of will, according to the guna that prevails in each. The understanding that knows what to do and what not to, safety and danger, bondage and liberation, is sattvic. Rajasic understanding fails to know right from wrong, when from when not to act, what should from what should not be done. Understanding is tamasic when, thickly covered in darkness, it imagines that wrong is right and sees the world upside down. The unswerving will that controls the functions of mind, breath, senses by the practice of meditation. This kind of will is sattvic. Rajasic will is attached to duty, sensual pleasures, power, and wealth, with anxiety and a constant desire for results. That will is called tamasic, by which a stupid man keeps clinging to grief and fear, to torpor, depression, and conceit. Now, Arjuna, I will tell you about the 3 kinds of happiness. The happiness which comes from long practice, which leads to the end of suffering, which at first is like poison, but at last like nectar. This kind of happiness, arising from the serenity of one's own mind, is called sattvic. Rajasic happiness comes from contact between the senses and their objects, and is at first like nectar, but at last like poison. Happiness is called tamasic when it is self-deluding from beginning to end, and arises from sleep, indolence, and dullness. No being on earth, Arjuna, or among the blithe gods in heaven is free from the conditioning of these 3 nature-born gunas. The duties of priests, of warriors, of laborers, and of servants are apportioned according to the gunas that arise from their inborn nature. Serenity, control, austerity, uprightness, purity, patience, knowledge, piety, and judgment are the natural duties of priests. Boldness, the ability to lead, large-heartedness, courage in battle, energy, stamina, and strength are the natural duties of warriors. Farming, cowarding, and trade are the natural duties of laborers, serving the needs of others. Is the natural duty of servants. Content with his natural duty, each one achieves success. Listen now, I will tell you how this success can be found. A man finds success by worshiping with his own right actions the one from whom all actions arise, and by whom the world is pervaded. It is better to do your own duty badly than to perfectly do another's. When you do your duty, you are naturally free from sin. No one should relinquish his duty. Even though it is flawed, all actions are enveloped by flaws as fire is enveloped by smoke. Self-mastered, with mind unattached at all times, beyond desire, one attains through renunciation the supreme freedom from action. Learn from me briefly, Arjuna, that when a man gains success, he also gains perfect freedom, the ultimate state of knowledge. With a purified understanding, fully mastering himself, relinquishing all sense objects, released from aversion and craving. Solitary, eating lightly, controlling speech, mind, and body, absorbed in deep meditation at all times, calm, impartial. Free from the eye and mind from aggression, arrogance, greed, desire, and anger, he is fit for the state of absolute freedom. Serene in this state of freedom, beyond desire and sorrow, seeing all beings as equal, he attains true devotion to me. By devotion he comes to realize the meaning of my infinite vastness. When he knows who I truly am, he instantly enters my being. Relying on me in his actions and performing them for my sake, he reaches by my great kindness the eternal, unchanging place. Give up all actions to me. Love me above all others. Steadfastly keep your mind focused on me alone. Focused on me at all times, you will overcome all obstructions, but if you persist in clinging to the I sense, then you are lost. And even if, clinging to the I sense, you say that you will not fight, your intention will be in vain. Nature will compel you to act. The thing that, in your delusion, you wish not to do, you will do, even against your will, since your own karma binds you. The Lord dwells deep in the heart of all beings by his wondrous power, making them all revolve like puppets on a carousel. Devoted to him, Arjuna, take refuge in him alone. By his kindness, you will attain the state of imperishable peace. Thus I have taught you the secret of secrets, the utmost knowledge. Meditate deeply upon it. Then act as you think best. Now listen to my final words, the deepest secret of all. I am speaking for your own welfare, since you are precious to me. If you focus your mind on me and revere me with all your heart, you will surely come to me. This I promise, because I love you. Relinquishing all your duties, take refuge in me alone. Do not fear, I will free you from the evils of birth and death. These teachings must not be spoken to men without self-control and piety, or to men whose hearts are closed to my words. He who teaches this primal secret to those who love me has acted with the greatest love and will come to me, beyond doubt. No one can do me a service that is more devoted than this, and no one on earth is more precious to me than he is, whoever earnestly studies. This sacred discourse of ours I consider, that he has worshipped and loved me with the yoga of knowledge. Even the man who hears it with faith and an open mind he also released will go to the joyous heavens of the pure. Have you truly heard me, Arjuna? Has my teaching entered your heart? Have my words now driven away your ignorance and delusion? Arjuna said, Krishna, I see the truth now. By your immeasurable kindness, I have no more doubts. I will act according to your command. Sanjaya said, O king, as I heard this wondrous discourse between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the man of great soul, the hair stood up on my flesh. By the poet Vyasa's kindness, I heard this most secret doctrine directly from the mighty Lord of Yoga, Krishna himself. O king, the more I remember this wondrous and holy discourse between the Lord and Arjuna, the more I shudder with joy. And as often as I remember the Lord's vast, wondrous form, each time I am astonished, each time I shudder with joy. Where Krishna is Lord of Yoga and Arjuna the archer, there surely, I think, is splendor and virtue and spiritual wealth.